You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tusaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster, Joe Benazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from Cboe. The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody, that music means we are back once again. It is Thursday, time to break out a little bit of the old option block, talk some unusual activity, talk some flow, all sorts of good stuff. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which so many of you folks are binging and mainlining. Thanks to all of you who have been checking out the latest addition to the network. For years, you folks have been asking us for a bite-sized daily edition of kind of some of the breakdown of the big flow of the day. Not that dissimilar from what we do here in the trading block, but condensed and bite-sized. If that's you, then you're in luck. The Hot Options Report has been hitting starting this week, and the response has been great. So thanks to all of you out there who are enjoying that. It's always fun to sink our teeth into a little bit more flow out there at the end of the day. Of course, if you want to sink your teeth into some more great content, including an awesome super-sized pro Q&A earlier this week, options oddities coming up after vol views, giveaways, live streams, exclusives, all sorts of fun. TheOptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. As we learn who's joining us on the old Thursday program today, I think Uncle Mike is still drunk from his celebration on Monday where he got a point yet again in the trivia challenge. He's sleeping it off today. No Uncle Mike today, listeners. But it's the Thursday edition, so we are joined once again by the flow master himself, Mr. Henry Schwartz from Cboe East. Mr. Flowmaster, welcome to the show. I do like your appropriate flow-oriented background, sir. Looks good.
It's great to be with you. Yeah, I was just updating some data. I'm trying to get my mid-year State of the Industry deck out. And so I got to compile some data. And like the numbers are just pretty freaking impressive. We're looking at 20% increase in total volume. What was interesting is actually it's almost the same for calls and puts. Sometimes when if we have a down market, you tend to see heavy put activity. If we have an up market, especially once retail gets involved, we tend to have heavy call volume. The way this year has gone, we're up about 7% year to date in the SPX. As we all know very well, it's been a rocky ride, especially the way the beginning of April went. One of the other big standouts is the zero-day-to-expiry volume continues to grow. That's up 33% year to date. That continues to be very, very strong. So the only thing that we're seeing some pullback in is actually the number of listings that you can trade options on. That's come down about 200 over last year. So we got about 5,700 tradable instruments. It does work out though to 1.8 million listed contracts as we go into peaks into each expiration. And that's a new record. Most of these things are new records. We have one heck of a market and it doesn't show any signs of slowing down.
I think more volume spread over fewer underlyings. I think we can all get behind that at the end of the day. Taking a few off the top, or maybe in this case, the bottom. Not the worst thing for the options market. As we keep on rolling, listeners, it is time to dive into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, listeners, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we dive into what the heck is trading, what is lighting up our screens out there today. And after a couple of sessions where we sputtered out of the gate, didn't really know which direction the market was heading, today we seem like we're maybe with a little pause. We mostly have been the bit in the teeth. Uncle Mike, he's not here, but he's busy flogging the Facebook cabal to buy, because most of in fact, all the major indices are in the green right now. S&P up 0.4% as we're kicking off the show. Dow up about 0.25%. NASDAQ once again getting the bit in its teeth, up about 0.75%. And our old pal VIX cash 16 3/4 when we kicked off the show, puts it down about 0.5 point from the Monday show. Yesterday, if you were paying attention to the markets and you listened into this show, so you probably were, there was a little bit of dust up between Powell and Trump, and that sent the markets into a little bit of a tizzy. And Vol got a little spicy there, got over a 19 handle ever so briefly in the VIX cash. Obviously, that quickly wore off and the rally resumed and the Vol crush resumed, but interesting to see that kind of intraday action out there. Maybe we'll see a little more intraday action today. Who knows? But right now, it seems like we are mostly trending to the upside in the markets and to the downside in Vol. VVIX, the Vol of Vol itself at a 93, down about 3 points from where it was this time on the Monday show. But other than that, it seems like we're pretty much looking at a traditional summer upside market. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, what is catching your eye?
You're exactly right. And it was actually pretty interesting. And one of them we'll get into in the odd block.
Ooh, a little bit of a tease, sir. A little bit of tease out there. All right, let's see what's lighting up the markets in the rest of the option space, shall we? Let's start in VIX land. And again, if you like this little rundown we do here, make sure you're checking out the hot options reports. If you're subscribed to the full network, you're already getting it. If you're not subscribed to the full network, what are you doing? You're missing out on nearly a dozen shows coming at you throughout the week. So strap in if you want some options content. All right, to the land of VIX we go. And maybe, producer, we can put out a flash poll on those 16.5 puts. Looks like that's the big dog out there today. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What's lighting up the tape out here in VIX? We have exactly 400,000 contracts on the tape. That's actually pretty decent. It's usually a sleepy period, mid-July. Not usually a standout period for the options market. Not usually a standout period for the vol market either. So 400K this time of year is impressive in and of itself. The ADV is 771, so that's actually a little north of half of the ADV, which is, again, nearly 800,000 contracts a day in the middle of July. We're in a somewhat aberrant vol market. That's not usually the case. What is the big dog out there? Looks like we got a bit of a house money roll. It's 40, almost 41,000 of the AUG 16.5 puts going up for 39 cents, including a big block of 32,400. You like those, listeners? AUG 16.5 puts. These are expiring on the 20th for 39 cents. You a buyer? We've been talking about the 17 strike. It seems like forever. Now it seems like the action moving perhaps to the 16.5 puts. That's exactly what's going on here. It's like we have a bit of a house money roll. This was a ratio put spread, effectively 11,500 of the 18 puts going up for $1.07 against roughly 3x of the 16.5 puts, opening on the 16.5 puts. So it has the whiff of a house money roll, aka they bought the 18 puts and now they're dumping those and putting the money back to work, buying roughly 3x of the 16.5 puts. You like that, listeners, or would you take your money and go do something else with it out there? Would you double down, triple down in this case, on the 16.5 put strike? Or is that a bridge too far? I'm curious. That's what our audience will decide in a little bit. We'll check in on that flash poll in a little bit, listeners, as we keep on rolling out there. Let's go to SPY land. Let's see. Is SPY hot? Is SPY looking spicy today, listeners? 4.42 million. So, yeah, the answer is yes. That's actually exactly 4 million away from the ADV, which is 8.42 million. So SPY's looking decently spicy. Again, it was looking similar yesterday till we had that little dust up. Then that kind of kicked us up to 11, and we had a pretty active day pretty much across the board. We have a similar catalyst today. I guess we'll find out. Again, about 4.42 million contracts on the tape in SPY land. You know what? Just for fun, let's run our old test just to see if, I'm not sure, is it a pass or a fail if it doesn't get it? Listen, I guess that's up to you and your viewpoint on all things zero DTE. Either way, I see 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow. 6 of the top 20 most active contracts in SPY today are not going the way of the dodo today. Wow, that's the most I've seen in quite some time. That's actually strange. I don't know what that means, but it is a little strange to see not 20 for 20, let alone 6. Who has the temerity to trade options that don't expire today? I don't understand it. Sounds crazy. Sounds like a wild time to me. Let's go out to the S and see if it's something similar out there in the S, listeners. The S right now, 2.08 million contracts on the tape. That's also looking pretty decent when you see the ADV is a little bit shy of 4 million, about 3.7 million. So obviously over halfway to that ADV already. Let's run the same test out here. I have a feeling the S is going to be more monolithic, and that is the case. 19 out of 20 of the top 20 most active contracts in the SPX are going the way of the dodo today. Only one goes out tomorrow. That is, I should say, 2,300 of the 6,300 calls expiring tomorrow. So there you go. The S has 1 out of 20 not expiring today. SPY, 6 out of 20. I don't know, Mr. Flowmaster, I know you watch zero-day flow on a regular basis. What are your thoughts that the S is in line, but SPY looking decidedly not 100% zero-day today, sir? Does that surprise you?
It is interesting. 62% of the volume is zero-day in there. I think that's about normal. Maybe we just have a couple of big adjustments that are in the longer-dated flow, because I do see what you're saying. Interesting. You've got some pretty big positions that expire tomorrow. Tomorrow is the monthly regular July expiration. So you've got AM SPX. You also have the PM SPX. There's a few other AM settled products too. So my guess is maybe there's just a little bit more going on in the non-zero DTE. It doesn't feel like the zero DTE is slower. It feels like there's just a couple of bigger institutional adjustments in things that are not zero DTE.
All right, let's check in on some of those other names that aren't zero DTE dominated, like small caps. Small caps do their own thing. In fact, if you listen to our hot options report, then you'll know that the hot option in small caps all week have been August puts. So very different beast out there in small caps than it is in, let's say, the S or even the Qs. 855,000 contracts on the tape in small caps today. So that's looking pretty spicy. The ADV is about 1.3 million, so more than halfway to that one as well. And you know what? Because I don't want to be accused of any sort of favoritism, we will run the same analysis for small caps, even though we know the answer is very different. It's quite a few that are not expiring. The easier thing to do is to count how many are expiring today. So let's do that. 4, 5, 7, 8. So not even 10, only 8 of the top 20 in small caps right now are expiring today. So again, this is something we said for a while. Small caps move to the beat of their own drum, and that is often not on the zero-day front. They're doing other things entirely, which in this kind of zero-day obsessed world is not the worst thing. It's a little refreshing, actually, to see something a little bit different. You pull up, if you tune in to TWIFO a little bit later and we do S&P, you'll hear 48% of that flow is going to be going out in 24, maybe one more day out there. It's just wild how front-loaded that product is now, too. And, of course, you have to filter out the hundreds of thousands of picking up literal pennies in front of the steamroller put bombing that is still going on out there. So you have a lot of very near-dated nonsense paper to sort through to get to any sort of really interesting signal out there in the flow. Small caps a little bit different. Let's go out to the Qs now. 2.38 million on the tape. That's a little more than we expect this time of day. The ADV about 3.7 million contracts. And again, let's keep it all fair and square here. Even Steven, the Qs, we know they lean more zero-day heavy as well. And I see 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of your top 20 listeners are not expiring today. So 15 for 20 in the Qs. Only 8 out of 20 in small caps. And we had about, 14 out of 20 in SPY, which is the lowest we've seen. And I think it was about 2 in the SPX. So interesting stuff out there on the broad index front. Is it an interesting day out there in the single name front? The answer is most assuredly yes. Not just for the volume, which is decent. 320,000 contracts on the tape. That is nothing to sneeze at. But also for the names we have breaking into the top 10. We got some wild ones. Again, if you've been listening to the hot option report this week, you know that was the case yesterday as well. I like our Metas and I like our Alphabets and all the other usual suspects that make it onto the list every day. Palantir, all that fun. But it's nice to have some new blood in there. That's what we got today. Number 10 cost you 320,000 contracts to break into the top 10. This gets us firmly, we're kicking things off firmly in the quantum, at least quantum named realm. This is a confluence of a variety of things. They actually make lithium battery. So there's all sorts of overlaps with this one. This obviously overlaps into EVs. The name has a little bit of quantum fun to it out there as well. And of course, lithium, if you've been paying attention to our futures rundown program, lithium, the two EMs are having a rough year, even though uranium's having a little bit of a run of late. And it looks like QuantumScape on the lithium front having a run today, up nearly $2, trading 1332, ticker symbol QS, by the way. I do believe this is the first time we've ever discussed QuantumScape in top 10 territory. It's never broken in before, so that's a wild one for this one. Again, up about $2 or 17%. On the year. It's actually had an interesting run. It was about $9 a year ago, so it's not up as much as you might think. It's not 1,000%. Still 49%, not a bad run, up $4.50. They took it down to, in August, in the sell-off of last year, around 5 3/4. It languished in that $4 to $5 range for most of the year. In April, it sold off to about $3.40, and then it hung out there till it was only 4 1/4 less than a month ago. And then over the last month or so, it's just had, 1 month, it's up 215%, or $9.11. Looks like they have some game-changing solid-state battery tech. If that's the case, energy density in batteries, that's one of the issues of our day. So if they have some movement on that front, that could certainly be worth quite the pop. And it has been quite the pop in this name. I don't need to have been doing this for a while, listeners, to probably guess that the hot trade out there is going to be some near-term upside. But you know what? Let's look really quickly and check. Yeah, it's 26,000 of the July 13s, which are already looking in the money by about 30 cents. So wild stuff out here. Kicking things off in QuantumScape. My goodness. Hot times out here in the top 10. I'm looking forward to the hot options report later today to see what kind of madness makes it onto the show then. Number 9, keeping things wild and hot. Let's go out to Chinese EVs, shall we? Let's go out to NIO. $4.44 today. Popping hard today. It's been a good run for them of late as well. Up 34 cents or 8% just today. On the year, this last move erases all their losses, or most of them. They're still off about 3%, but they were off a lot more. They were 460 a year ago, so they're about even. They rallied it back in October to 771. Then they smoked it on April 9th and went all the way down to $3, pretty much exactly. Then it's been languishing. They tried to rally it in April up to 4.25. Then it sold off again, down to about 3.5 just about a week ago. And over the last week, it's gained about $1 out here, pretty close to it. A good little run out here in NIO. I'm trying to see, is it an upgrade or what the deal is? I think, did they have earnings recently? I think they might have had earnings. The headline I see is lack of profit is still concerning. So that seems to fly in the face of this rally. Either way, more buyers and sellers out there. NIO number 9, 400,000 contracts on the tape here for NIO today, listeners, which is just a lot of wild paper. All right, let's keep rolling. Let's go out to number 8. This has been a frequent offender of late. They've been on a good run as well. This is Robinhood, 445 on the tape. A 105, pretty much even, up about almost $2 today, or nearly 2%. And the percent math is pretty easy when they're hanging out around $100, listeners. On the year, this one's had a good run. You don't need me to tell you, up 81 handles, or 334%. It wasn't that long ago we were talking about selling 40 puts in this name and worried about, I mean, not worried, it broke through that handle. You were getting put to you there. And if you got the stock put to you, you're happy right now. Hood, number 8, 445,000 contracts on the tape. Number 7, to the fruit company we go. It's a weird top 10 day, listeners, when Apple's all the way down at number 7. What's kicking it down? I guess we'll find out. It's the fruit company, 461 on the tape, 211 right now, up about 80 cents today. So managing to rally away from that par strike that it seems like it's been locked to like a black hole for quite a long time this year. Number 7, the fruit company, 461 on the tape. Number 6, AMD. You know, the chip names have been just rally-ho mode of late ever since NVIDIA stopped by the White House and said, hey, we want to sell chips to China. And Trump said, okay. I wonder what happened behind the scenes there to make that happen. But that's a conversation for another day. Number 6, AMD, 159.19, off about 90 cents, or about 0.5%. 559 on the tape for them today. So finally giving up the ghost. They got up to about 162 today, so they're coming off a little bit. It's been a good week for them still, though. They're up $16.50 or 11.5% just over the past week on this chip news. Number 5, one of our frequent offenders, it's Palantir, 154, pretty much even, up about $3 today. 651,000 contracts on the tape for them. Number 4, another newcomer to our top 10. We talked about him yesterday on the Hot Options Report. Again, it's always fun to see newcomers come in, let alone this high in our top 10, let alone such a cheap name. If our buddy, the Viceroy, was still with us on the show, he would be appalled, aghast that so many people are slinging options in a stock that even with the rally it's had over the past 5 days, 81% rally over the past 5 days, listeners, it's still only $1.64. It's rallied 74 cents. This is a good little run here for Open Door. I haven't had a chance to look on what the flow is outside of, looks like some meme mania out here. People are saying it's the next Carvana. If that's the case, man, get in now. It's going up to 200 from $1. Either way, it's always wild to me to see so much flow piling in to the options when you could buy the forever call, listeners, for about $1.50. At least this morning you could. So kind of wild to me. They're doing 10.5 times their volume again today. The big dog, strap in if this surprises you. Nearly 100,000, 89,000 of the 2 calls. Yes, 2 calls. Let's just look really quickly. How much is the 2 call going for? These are, by the way, expiring tomorrow. So not getting a lot of time for the 2s. How much are you paying? Paying 13 cents. Someone paid 25 cents this morning for the 2s. You're paying 25 cents for the 2s expiring tomorrow when you could have bought the stock at that time. The stock was a little higher than $1.83. Still. Again, good thing our pal, the Viceroy, is not here. This is the kind of flow. Our chat saying it's a wild top. Yeah, these are the kind of top 10s that are, I mean, they're all fun, but this week, Just chef's kiss for the top 10 in the flow. And we're not even done yet, listeners. Let's move. We'll probably come back to open, I have a feeling. But number 3, excuse me, keeping it in the weirds mobile and also in the EV side. So we got a lot of EVs sneaking in here today. We have, of course, whatever the hell's driving open, online real estate platform. But more buyers than sellers on that one. Let's go out to Lucid, another one, popping hard. Lucid Group 316 up 90 cents or 38%. It's another one that's had a rough go of it. They're still down on the year, off 63 cents or about 17%, excuse me. They sold off to about $2, a little shy of $2, $1.93. They hit that level, looks like a couple of times in November of last year, then again, just at the beginning of July. So if you scoop some Lucid beginning of July, you're looking pretty good. You're already up over 50%, including this big shoot up just in the last 24 hours from 229 up to 316 now. Quite the run. 6-year robo-taxi deal with Lucid from Uber. They're pumping $300 million into the stock. That'll do it. That'll do it out there. They're planning a reverse stock split as well. So that combo seems to be running the stock up either way, 1.13 million. You know what? Again, let's just be egalitarian. Let's keep an eye on everybody out there and see what they're up to today. What's the big dog in Lucid today? Oh, it's going to be calls. The question is which one and how much. It's the 3 halves going out to, people buy no duration anymore. In this 0-day era, nobody goes out more than a day. 124,000 of the 3 halves trading today. My goodness. What are we doing out here, people? Have you never listened to the show? This one's not quite as egregious, but still, the stock is fairly cheap. Let's see, how high do we get today? We got to 337 in the stock today. Let's see how high did these 3 halves trade today? Let's look. 15, 18 cents. Looks like 18, 19 cents. That was around the high. Oh no, 24 cents some printed for. My goodness, you're paying 24 cents for these things? And the stock was 313. What are we doing, people? I will be the surrogate viceroy today. I will wag my finger at you. What are you doing? Put some of that capital to work in other ways. Buy a little more duration. Buy the forever call if you really like it. But calls expiring tomorrow that are 30, 40 cents out of the money in a stock that's languished at $2 for the better part of this year. Wild stuff. All right, number 2 and number 1. Can you guess which one's 2, which one's 1 today? Listen, NVIDIA's been tearing it up of late with all this China news, so probably number 2 is Tesla, and that is the case. 319, pretty much exactly, off about 260 right now. I just ticked a little bit. It's off $4 now, or 317.64 is where it's trading. Off about 1.25%. Good for 1.16 million contracts on the tape in Tesla. And the big dog, you know it, maybe you love it, 2.25 million. It's actually kind of light. It put up well over 4, about 4.5 million earlier this week on the heels of that China news. 173.67 is NVIDIA today, up nearly $2.50. Again, good for 2.25 million contracts. And we said it, the week is kicking off. The earnings season is kicking off this week. Financials kicking us off, in high style. Several banks making some big money on the trading side. Others screwing the pooch out there, so a mixed bag. We had Morgan, we had Citi, we had Wells Fargo and BlackRock on Tuesday. Yesterday, United Airlines, Alcoa, and J&J. And then today we have PepsiCo, Abbott Labs, good old Netflix, and a little bit of IB. And just because we like you folks, hot off the presses from our friends over there at ORATS, we got the earnings move results reports for today. Let's go at a couple of them really quickly. PepsiCo popping off before the bell. 135.35 is where they were going into their announcement. They were pricing in 3.7%. They delivered, get this, 6.6%. So PepsiCo putting out some good numbers. I guess people are buying themselves some Pepsi. Up $9.50 now, or 7%, trading nearly 145. So good little run for PepsiCo out there. Are you slinging a little PepsiCo? Are you more of a Warren Buffett Coke fan? Hit us up. Alcoa also yesterday after the bell, $28.50 is where they were trading going into their numbers. They were pricing in 5.6%. They moved, get this, 5.6%. So exactly in line with their straddle, which is kind of wild. We don't see that too often. As of right now, they've come back down to earth a little bit, only up about 4% out there right now. United Airlines yesterday after the bell as well. 88.5 is where they were trading going into their announcement. They were pricing in 7.2%. They did the opposite. They're only moved about 3.5%. So wild stuff out here. Apparently no juice left in the airlines out there. Let's see, they're down to 2.3% now. So dramatic underperformance. If you sold vol in United Airlines, you are a happy camper right now. You know what? Let's do GE as well, because they were popping off today before the bell. 266.18 is where they were going into their announcement. They were pricing in 5.4%. Get this, they moved 0.1%, listeners. So a whole heck of a lot of nothing. My goodness. As of right now, they've moved a whopping 1%. So again, these reports are in the immediate post-earnings snapshot when we take them. So things could move by the time the show starts. But still, just wild. Seems for several names here, premium selling was the way to go. We got the Widowmaker popping off, aka Netflix, popping off after the bell today, listeners. They were at 12, what a wild stock price, $12.50 and a third when we ran this report. They were pricing in $73.86. In the past, they've moved a whopping $104.34. So call me crazy, but they're pricing in a little bit less juice. Taking what's $30 off the top amongst friends out there, listeners. My goodness. Chuck Schwab, 18th before the bell as well, if you like some more financials. Also, one of the bigger options brokers in the game. A 91 and a quarter was where they were when we ran this report. They were pricing in about $4, and in the past, they've moved about $4. So no real wild action out there. Liz, I'm just scrolling. We have so many tickers for you folks. Again, you guys and gals can see all this for yourselves. All the tickers we don't have time to get to. TheOptionsInsider.com is the place to go. Click on the options news and articles tab to begin your journey to the dark side. We did PepsiCo. Let's do its counterpart, Coke. They're popping off on the 22nd before the bell. They were at 69 and a quarter when we ran this report. They were pricing in $2 exactly. In the past, they've moved about 109. So almost doubling their previous moves out there in their straddle. So a little bit extra juice out there in Coke, which is fascinating given what we just talked about in PepsiCo out there. Interesting. I guess given the move in PepsiCo, maybe you could argue that move in Coke is warranted. And let's look really quickly. Tesla. Let's do them. Then we got to keep on rolling. Let's go to Tesla. 23rd after the bell. 321.67 is where they were trading. They were pricing in $21.73. In the past, get this, they've moved $32.93. So an $11.20 haircut. Wow. Off their past. I mean, is there a fire sale in Tesla Vol that I was unaware of? I need to go dig into that a little bit. Wow. That seems surprisingly cheap. I lied. One more. Southwest Airlines, 24th before the bell. 37.41 is where they were trading. They were pricing in $2.13. In the past, they moved to $1.58. So actually looking kind of rich out there in Southwest as well. So my goodness, we could do literally hours of this. That's how many tickers there are here, listeners, which is why you should be checking out this stuff. There's literally nowhere else you're going to get this data for free. It's wild that we give you this stuff for free, but we do because we're crazy like that. TheOptionsInsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab to begin your journey to the dark side as we continue our journey into the odd block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by TheOptionsInsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, listeners, let's get weird. Let's get wild. Let's unleash the beast that is the Flowmaster as he has fixed his steely gaze upon a name we've talked about once or twice of late. I would dare say this qualifies now as a frequent offender. What is it? It's Unity Software. You know them, the gaming engine out there. Ticker symbol U. Another hot day for them. 36.32, up about 2 1/3 or nearly 7% just today. They got as high as nearly $39 this morning. So they were on quite the tear for whatever reason out there, outside of more buyers than sellers. The deal On the year, it's been a spicy year for them. They're up exactly 100%, or about 18 and a quarter. So they have literally doubled over the past year, including a nice run start of July from about $24 up to 36 right now. Like I said, getting up to nearly 39 this morning. So there was another price, an analyst raised their price target on them yesterday, but my goodness, this has been quite the run for Unity. Mr. Flowmaster, not our first dalliance with the old U. What caught your eye, sir?
No, so I know that I've mentioned this one a couple times in the last 5 or 6 weeks. I was actually in the stock. I still have a little bit, but this is the one that we saw at the end of May, a couple of very distinct call purchases, and they were noticeable because each one was 10,000 contracts. There's the 4 of them that were bought around 440, or I think it was around May 30th. Stock was 25-ish at the time, and I think we talked about it that week and said, wow, this is a pretty aggressive, slightly longer term, considering that 2/3 of the flow trades within a week to expire, and this is January. It's very long term is how in terms of how things trade. But and it actually, the open interest ended up is currently 900,000 contracts, and 2/3 of it is calls. There's 80,000 of those Jan 30 calls open, but there've been continued heavy call volume days. I think last week when we mentioned it, they were actually selling some short dated calls, and I said wouldn't surprise me if the owner of the longer dated stuff is just trying to take advantage of the fact the stock was pretty strong. But this week is really, this is the first time we've seen it blow through 30 and get up to as high as 38. It's not hard to borrow. At least it doesn't look like there's any issue borrowing the stock, but there is a lot of open interest at that. And I actually was talking to a broker friend, and he said, oh, well, that one was easy to spot. And I said, they don't always work out, but in this case, those calls that were bought, it looks to me like the same buyer has about 80,000 of them from 440 up to they traded as high as 11-ish. That's about a $50 million profit on paper. It does not look like they've gotten out of any of those, but as I said, you see a lot of the volume in. There's 160,000 calls today. They're not trading the Jan 30s, but they are trading a lot of shorter dated July and August, probably selling some of these 40 strike calls against it now that the stock's higher. So this one really did work out. If you pay attention to directional option flow, this is a big success story.
Yeah, this is a wild one. I'm looking at some of these prices. Again, we're talking about people can't buy duration to save their lives, Mr. Flowmaster. I'm looking at some of the prints just in the July 40s from today. Again, these are going out tomorrow. Listen, they traded as high as 62 cents this morning, Mr. Flowmaster. So folks in this zero-day era just seem conditioned to throw money out the window for 24-hour options like it's going out of style. So 62 cents. Obviously, the stock got higher this morning. We talked about it getting almost to $39, listeners. Maybe it might be a fun flash poll again for these U calls. So maybe producers, let's put that out there as well. My favorite choice for that one is going to be, what the hell is going on in U? Because this is the wild one. Speaking of wild, we just talked about this one. I said we might come back to it. This is Lucid. You know it, you love it. LCID trading about 320 today, up about 90 cents or nearly 40% just today. Big investment from Uber. Also talking reverse split action. So interesting time out here in Lucid Group. Banger day. Biggest, hottest day for them options wise since the good old meme stock days. Mr. Flowmaster, I was just talking about Lucid. What caught your eye, sir?
Yeah, so Mark, you'll be very happy. I just added a new secret shortcut to your optional terminal.
Ooh, I love secret shortcuts. What did I get?
You got stock up, vol up. If you click on it, Lucid actually shows up at the top. So this is a recap of the biggest gainers where volatility is higher, and that's certainly what we're seeing in Lucid. As you said, stocks up almost 40% for some of the catalysts, the reasons that you said. To see the at-the-money vol up 50 points and to see the skew, basically the kinking to the upside. Okay, so you now have a case where the call vol is well above the put vol. We call that an inverted call skew, and it suggests that the investors are much more focused on an upside move than a downside move. And I actually have a query that I've run periodically since the meme stock days that basically just looks at the percentage of single stock names out there that show this higher call skew than put skew, because it is unusual. Usually people are worried about a stock crashing, not crashing up. And during the meme stock era, it was as high as 30 or 40% of the stocks had this very super demand for calls. And then the long-term average is close to 7%. So I'm going to refresh that today. I'll tweet it out from the option alert handle, just showing how things stack up right now. But to see Lucid up 40% and the busiest day since the meme stock days, there's no ginormous trade that jumps out at me. There are some spreads, as you said, a lot of stuff going on in the 1.5 and 2 strike, which Alex would laugh about, but just very heavy volume. At the beginning, I mentioned it feels like a very, very aggressive risk on type of moment, right? There doesn't seem to be a lot of fear, even though we saw what could happen if Trump does try to fire Powell. But in the meantime, the market just trudging higher. And then you have some of these little speculative names making big moves, and Lucid is one of them.
Lucid is a hot one. Are you getting back in the EV game, listeners? Seems like it's getting spicy again after languishing for the better part of the last year. There have been a few pockets of activity every now and then, but we haven't talked about Rivian in a while. I haven't talked about Lucid in a while. I haven't talked about NIO in a while, and suddenly at least 2 of that 3 are back on our radar, which is always fun. It's always fun to have some EV action to talk about. Let's go out to airlines again. Not usually the sexiest of things, but let's see what's popping off here today. This is JetBlue, ticker symbol JBLU. I haven't talked about them quite some time. A 458, only up about 6 cents today, so not exactly a banger day for them. On the year, let's see, it's been a bit of a dumpster fire of a year. They're off nearly $2 or nearly 30% on the year still, even after today's little move. They rallied it back in January to $8.31. So they did the worst thing you could do for the stock. They peaked right at the beginning of the year. So now you look at them year to date, they look like a dumpster fire even more. Year to date, they're off nearly 40%. So rough. They fell out of bed immediately after January, and then they got hit hard. April, they went all the way down to $3.34. So glass half full, they have rallied off that. They popped it hard, actually, back in May. They rallied all the way up to $5.42. So from $3.43, effectively, they rallied $2 essentially up to $5.42 in May. And then they gave it all right back, sold out to $4 again in June. And they've been hanging around this $4 level and gently drifting up ever since. So a pretty wild year here for JetBlue. The carrier going to cut flights, unlikely to break even in 2025. You've been hearing about this for a while. Weaker travel demand. Interesting stuff. Mr. Flowmaster, what'd you spot out here in JBLU?
Yeah, so I have watched this name for a long time. I think I've been in it and probably lost the money in it because, as you said, the stock has really just never done much. They were trying to merge with Spirit Airlines. I think that got blocked. What I noticed today was actually an early buyer around 10:48 in the morning, New York time. We saw a buyer of 1,600 of the 4.5 calls expiring August 22nd. That buyer paid 58 cents, and that's an opening trade that certainly has a bullish directional angle. Overall, what I'm looking at is the volatility is higher. The skew's a little bit flatter, meaning it does seem to be directionally bullish. There are some other large trades. It seems to be some pretty big rolls out in time as well. Looks to me like about 20,000 calls have been rolled from July out to August 22nd at the 5-strike line. They're paying like 35, 37 cents to do that. So it looks like somebody's looking for the stock to recover. It's up a couple pennies today. Again, it was not hard to find bullish, unusual volume situations today, and it feels a little bit frothy, so it doesn't mean that anything's going to happen to break that situation, but there's a lot of kind of heavy speculation. And with VIX down here under 17, it might be a decent time to kind of look for any positions that you have that you're just not in love with anymore and just trim deltas, whether you sell some stock or buy a couple puts, or just like I would, Mike was on, I know he'd be hoping to yell, never been a better time, but I would be lightening up a little bit up here just because it feels like the market might be due for a little bit of a pause.
Feeling a little skittish. Understandable. Is our audience feeling skittish? Let's find out real quick. Mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, we got some fun questions of the week and flash polls live right now. Let's get into them. We just put this one live a few minutes ago while I was talking about it. This goes back to what you were just saying, Mr. Flowmaster, in Unity. And we said, hey, nearly 10,000 of the Unity July 40 calls have traded today with prices as high as 62 cents. We said, at those prices, are you a buyer, a seller, or what is the right answer? What the hell is going on in Unity? I'm glad to see 57.1% of our audience taking the bait. They're going with that one. 28.6% say sold to you. I get it. That's hard to, you can't buy that for 62 cents. 14.3% say you wanted to buy that bad boy. That'll be live for the rest of the day. So pretty much by the time those options expire, that'll go away. We also asked you about the AUG 16.5 puts and VIX that we talked about earlier. That was part of a ratio house money roll, obviously, but we said straight up, AUG 16.5 puts for 39 cents, you a buyer or a seller. Our audience can't decide. Exactly 50% for each, including the Rock Lobster who chimed in on this. He says, but I don't like it. Okay, but what did you vote for? We don't know. I'm going to guess, because he's been buying a lot of 17 puts and even 16 puts. I'm guessing he's going to say he wanted to buy these as well, but he's not going to allow. I'll have to ask him tomorrow what the hell he was refresh. That's such a Rock Lobster thing to do. Comment on something without telling us what the hell he actually thinks. I think he thinks we can see how he voted in the poll, but we cannot. All right, out to our actual questions of the week. It's a twofer right now. We have a fun one and then a kind of a more topical one. The fun one is just quite simply this week, what's your favorite name to harvest a little bit of the old risk premium in? Gave you 3 names and the infamous others, Circle, Palantir, or NVIDIA. And then other, and you guys have had write-ins for a lot of weird stuff. Hims, Robinhood, Cameco, yeah, out there on the uranium front. That's always an interesting one as well. So a lot of fun write-ins. And then it is crypto week in Congress this week, even though it sounds like some of that legislation getting hung up a little bit. But we said just along those lines, it's been a good run for crypto. Which of these assets in the crypto space do you think has the most upside for the second half of the year? Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, or the infamous others? Mr. Flowmaster, first off, are you surprised that our audience is just saying what the hell is going on in Unity, which is, I think, the correct answer? Our audience literally cannot make up their mind, including apparently the Rock Lobster, on whether they want to buy or sell these AUG 16.5 puts in VIX. And then do you have any thoughts in terms of Palantir, Circle, NVIDIA, or other for a fun premium harvesting name? And Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, or other, which way are you and our audience going on the crypto front, sir? A lot to sound off on.
I thought every week was crypto week, the way that
seems like it these days.
Things are going in Washington. I think that I do know a little bit about Circle. That's been a crazy hot name, and it is in the crypto world, but it's also, I believe their business is stable coins, which I understand that the legislation has really created the framework for that business to be sustainable. But at the same time, it sounds to me like valuation-wise, it's trading at a somewhat crazy price. I think they have a license deal with Coinbase where they have to pay half of their revenue to Coinbase. I would, but at the same time, you got to be careful because you can't just sell naked calls or something in a name that we know what can happen in the meme stock world. So, but I would try to lean against Circle one way or another. I'm trying to do it in the safest way possible. And I really am struck by how much we're seeing in these cheap, low dollar stocks trading up double-digit % with aggressive call buyers in the strikes that are below $5.
Yeah, right now, our audience, they want to sell puts or just they want to harvest premium in Palantir, Mr. Flowmaster. That's winning with 43.8%. I'm surprised Circle didn't take it. I know a lot of our audience, in particular, our pro members, have been having fun selling puts out there and getting paid quite a bit to do it out there of late. NVIDIA, number 2, 31.3%, 21.9% for Circle, 3.1% for other. And in terms of the crypto side, listeners, a lot of you just going traditional Bitcoin, 46.9%, 31.3% for ETH. That's wild to me because ETH until this past week, this past month really, was one of the worst performing assets we track on the futures rundown, off nearly 50% year to date. It's erased almost all of those losses now. It's close to flat for the year. That's obviously biasing people a little bit, but ETH, if you had done this poll just a week ago, ETH probably would have been nowhere near the number 2 spot, but this week it is 31.3%. Solana bringing up the rear. That's kind of wild. There was a lot of love for Solana earlier this year, 18.8% for Solana, 3.1% for other, as we keep on going and go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on until our next episode on Monday, or in the Flowmaster's case, next Thursday. Mr. Flowmaster, what are you keeping an eye on, sir?
I think you have to keep an eye on the macro situation and potential headlines and tweets and truths out of DC, and then earnings. We have Tesla, we have Netflix today, right?
Yes, after the bell, I do believe today.
Yeah, so that'll be a fun one. Anything moving possibly $60 to $100 is always interesting, even if it's a $1,200 stock. And as I said, I'm going to be tallying up how exuberant the pricing configuration seems to be with my count of inverted skew names as a percentage of the total.
Inverted skew names as a percentage of total. I ask you, listeners, can it possibly get more exciting? All right, that music means we are done with the excitement, at least for this show, but worry not. If you need more, I'll be back in a little bit, Carly Garner in hand, to talk all things futures options. If I know Carly, she's probably going to want to talk some Widowmaker, aka Nat Gas. That seems like a big one for her. What we get into besides that, I guess we'll find out. That's why you have to tune in to TWIFO every week. But before we get there, Mr. Flowmaster, if folks want to check out all this cool stuff, I've been playing around here myself with my brand new stock up, vol up scan. If folks want to play with their own version, Mr. Flowmaster, where should they go? What should they do?
Just head over to Cboe.com/RMA. That's got all of our platforms and our data set. And I'll tell you, the option sentiment data set, which we sell on datashop.cboe.com, actually has a column for the 25 delta skew. So you actually could do your own daily analysis of how many inverted names there are, and you can rank them just looking at what is the most extreme skew. And then you can always just go to Cboe.com or Google Cboe.com Market Intelligence, and you can sign up for my State of the Industry and Mandy's Weekly Volatility Digest.
So that's at Cboe.com/market intelligence, sir?
I think you have to just Google Market Intelligence at Cboe.
Google it, listeners. If you're not signing up for Henry's newsletter, what are you doing? Good stuff. All kinds of insights like this you can get in between his appearances on the old program. And of course, just head on over to Cboe.com in general. A lot of great stuff over there, including Cboe.com/RMA, where you can get access to all of Henry's goodies and a whole bunch more. It's going to do it for us right now. Back in a little bit for the old TWIFO action. If you're hanging out in the live, just hang out. We'll pump some fun stuff in there. Be back in a few minutes with Carly. Then back again tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, to talk all things vol on Volatility Views. I forgot one. There is a new show in between there. Back again later today for the Hot Options Report. Man, so many new shows hitting the network, I can't even keep track, listeners. Then back again tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. Dr. Vix, maybe the Rock Lobster, I'll ask him what the hell he was talking about with those VIX puts. Did he buy them or did he sell them? I guess we'll find out. And then one final time, exclusively for our pro friends, we come back with the official after party of Vol Views, known around the globe as Options Oddities. The only place to get that, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. While you're there, make sure you check out the awesome supersized pro Q&A we just did with our friends over at Fidelity earlier this week. A lot of great stuff hanging out there. theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Then we're back again on Monday. Can Uncle Mike keep his streak alive? I guess we'll find out on the Option Block. See you then, and stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.